This is the East Coast Bowhunter Podcast. We're here in upstate New York, Bow and Bridle Whitetails Lodge. Whoa. And I got Caddy Cowboy to my left, and I'm your boy D-Rock here with
East Coast Trev,
Modern Assassin,
Bob,
and Marcus.
Welcome, fellas. Or should I say thank you for welcoming us. This show is brought to you by Elite Archery. Woohoo!
kill it.
Yeehaw! Right, Trev?
That's right.
No, not shameless. So, we're here. It's pretty amazing. We have a lot to talk about. We have an amazing episode to come. What you guys are going to hear about is simply the vice versa of what you're used to. You go into the woods, you plan to put blood on the ground, and you pass the small ones so you can kill the big ones. Well, guess what? We have a story vice versa. We're passing up big ones because
200-inch plus when we say big.
that's pretty damn big.
Big.
To get to the little ones. And we'll get right into it in just a bit. But we have many sponsors and we have many promo codes, so let's run down the list. Trev, what do you got? First one.
First
First one that comes to mind. Let's hear it.
Oh, Gator Outdoors.
Gator Outdoors, outfitting the working class. What's the promo code for that?
ECB 10.
Good job. You passed. Anyone else knows?
Ethics, baby. Rip right through shit.
Oh, shit. Do you know the promo code, G?
East Coast 10.
Damn.
That was a guess.
No,
I
that
hope
was
I'm
perfect.
right. All right,
That was
cool.
perfect.
Yeah.
I've
And
listened
Thrasher.
once or twice.
Tree Thrasher.
Anyone else? Oh, Tree Thrasher, jumping right on
East
it.
Coast 15.
I was going to say after today, maybe those game calls there, huh?
Nor'easter Gang Mac.
Oh my goodness!
The Evolution
gracious.
series
What a story.
has been officially approved by 170-plus inch whitetails.
Fuck.
No,
To the yes.
200-inch plus whitetails.
Insane.
Oh,
Comment
yeah.
down
Actually, he
the
goes probably
ring.
230, I think he said. Anyway, continue.
Let's hear from Marcus. What do you think about the Nor'easter game calls?
So, not to ruin it, but sitting with Trev tonight, incredibly awesome. And so, oh my goodness, we've got a technical malfunction.
No, we're good.
Oh, we're good. Okay, so used it for the first time in the field tonight, and I've never seen this reaction from a deer. But Trev and I this deer came in so fast. The first one, I had to tap Trev on the shoulder. I was in the guide stand. He was down below me doing a little hunting, and I tapped him on the shoulder. My ear is just going right here, and came running, and it was and he was grunting. I actually heard him grunt back to the grunt call before we saw him, and I'm like, Trev, did you hear that? Like, there's a deer is grunting. Sure enough, came right in. It was incredible.
Insane. Did that deer have a name?
Get them in close.
Nope. No,
No.
I've actually never seen that deer before in my life, to be honest. I'm sure Bob may have, but I've never seen
I
him.
called it the Nor'easter buck.
The Nor'easter?
Hey, get him in
Nor'easter.
close. Like you said, he came
Bro.
in to where he was directly below the stand.
I like that.
BFD.
Do you
How's
think
that big
BFD?
freaking deer? So,
I guess we'll go freaking.
Below the stand is a
Scrape.
false statement.
You know-
he was so close to the stand that I could honestly drool on him and it would fall on his face.
I thought you were drooling, though.
No, well,
Come on, that's
He
what we
was
heard.
dribbling,
No
not
emotion,
drooling, but let's not
yeah.
get into
He
details.
didn't know what to do up there.
Yeah, it was insane.
So, is it ironic or coincidence that the Nor'easter buck, the BFG, came in on the Nor'easter game call while we're sitting in almost a Nor'easter?
Yeah,
That
right?
shit was brutal today.
Oh, it was wild.
Yeah.
Ice, frozen rain.
I was a little worried getting out of that tree stand. It was pretty. It was a stand sickle.
Yeah,
So-
it was pretty bad.
Stansicle. I love it.
It's funny. Getting back to the hunting barn, you took my bow right away. All right, let's thaw this out real quick.
Yeah, and then you got to hit it with the compressed air to get all the water out of it and taking good care of you.
But that's what it is. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes to see 1,000+ inches a day, right? Of antler.
Thanks
Pretty
for
good
clarifying
goal.
that.
Ridiculous.
And not even that, but there wasn't just one buck that came in on a Nor'easter game call. There was actually 3 bucks today.
Why don't you
In
dip
total.
into it before we get back to the promo codes?
Kind of. So the first buck we just talked about. The second buck, also about 30 minutes after the first one had come in, Marcus had hit the call again, and this one now grunted back again.
Is our promo code ECB for Nor'easter to get
There-
all the goodies?
Yes, I believe so.
ECB.
B.
So you get a lanyard with that game call purchase. If you buy, I know we set up to November 1st, but just get on Mark said East Coast Bowhunting Podcast said so. And if you buy 2, you get a free koozie, right?
That's right.
So it's dope. So
Yeah,
please
anything
continue.
over $100 actually on his.
No, 2.
And these
Evolution
calls
series.
are not just grunt calls. They are pieces of artwork. They are handmade, one of a kind. You're getting something special, not just a grunt call, grunt tube that you get from anywhere.
Also can be bleeded with.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's the set we did. We did on that
was
second buck. I think we did a quick bleat.
Yep.
And then I put a grunt after that and did that in sequence. And this is a buck that was. We're pretty sure he was on a doe on the other side of a food plot, and it was kind of an interesting story because we're hunting in a cloud essentially.
Yeah, I don't know about where you were, but it was foggy where we were tonight.
Yeah.
You
It
couldn't.
was bad.
Yeah, man, Bob, you couldn't see 70 yards maybe where we were. It was crazy, 80 yards. And so when this buck came, I heard him first. I heard the grunt. I've never experienced anything like that. I mean, we do hear deer grunt here right now, especially during the rut. But to see him flying in like that and then hit it again, and he didn't want to leave. I think there was a doe there, and he just did not want to leave. And then we hit the grunt one more time, and I was like, either he's going to blow out of here, and no, he got super aggressive and came through the switchgrass over the stones, making and it just came in, circled around to the left, right in front of the stand, and so that was a mature deer. That was a deer that's on the certainly on the list, and another 200 plus inch deer.
I mean, when he says ran, he means ran, and it ran right to us, right to the base of the tree. And this thing was just...
So he knew exactly
he was ready
where
to
that call came from.
Oh, yeah.
And he's one of the big dogs of the farm, you'd say, right? Marcus
he
and
was
Bob,
coming in to kick your ass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sure.
he's at that age where he knows it's his time.
Oh,
and it sounds like he just didn't take too kindly to someone else speaking the language.
Yeah, that particular deer we've seen, and he's an interesting buck. And the coolest thing about him is, believe it or not, I have no idea, but I'm thinking his brow tines are probably
they're
about
at least
13.
14 inches.
Yeah, 13,
day.
14.
All day.
14,
It's
15.
incredible.
They're tall,
all
straight.
day.
Yeah, so good, another 200-inch deer.
Well, Steve was saying that he had not oftentimes heard that people had a grunt call on the property.
Yeah.
work.
That's true. I've rattled them in here.
Caddy Cowboy, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. And I think Bob's rattled them in.
Oh, yeah. They come into the rattles. Not too often you get them to come in with a grunt, but that grunt call sounds amazing.
Yeah, we had 2 of them come in. The only 2 deer we had tonight, and they were both over 200 inches, and they both came into that call. It's cool. I mean, I'm not.
You haven't seen that happen with other calls yet.
I've never seen that happen anywhere with anything. So it's pretty cool.
Most calls have that.
I've been on a long time, dude.
Most
a bold
calls
statement.
have that plastic tube to it, and it's got that loud pop. And with the evolution of the original ECB calls, this evolution series, it has that rubber tube, and not only is it rubber, but you can extend it like the throat and esophagus of a deer and really get that proper tone and bellow. I mean, like you said, you heard that deer grunt back. It sounds the same.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and what you have to realize, what's cool is that we've been hearing the deer now that the rut's in. You do hear them bleat, and you do hear the big boys grunt. And I think a lot of us try to get super fancy on our calls, and it's usually a much shorter, just monotone kind of
Tending grunt,
that
monotone
grunt.
and almost repeated.
So what I'm trying to do today was trying to mimic that, and I think it really worked. And I think, to Bob's point, that deer was coming in to say, all right, not on my watch, not in my area, I'm going to go kick your ass. And it's pretty cool.
And not even that, but also we had actually called one in on the public land side also today.
Get into that. Actually,
Yeah, so let's hear about that.
One moment. Let's hold that thought for a second.
Yep.
Death Wish Coffee, the world's strongest coffee, fueled by Deathcast, is their podcast by Jeff Ayers. Ayers.
Last episode, check it out.
Yeah. Thank you. Do check it out. The dude's amazing. It was an awesome episode with him. A non-hunter that believes in hunting. He says kill the deer. Why not? Don't be queer and kill the deer. So Death Wish Coffee has been fueling this deer camp since...
Cold brew.
Yeah. Since 2018. Yeah?
Yeah.
the end of the year, right?
Yep.
We picked up that sponsor.
17.
No,
yeah.
not 17.
I,
We
no,
started
no,
in 2000.
I meant September.
We're only just over a year old.
I
Trev.
know. I was just kidding.
And what other promo code we have? Oh, promo code ECB for Working Class Bowhunter website. Go get your gear and save you some. So get back to the story, Trev.
Oh, so
The public land. Can you start from the beginning?
It's private land, but it's
yeah,
free range.
that's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
meant. Free range. Yeah. So we were hunting the free range. Me and Caddy Cowboy. And
How was the entry to it though? With Caddy Cowboy.
we'll just leave that part out.
No, I want to hear it. I want to hear that today.
He wanted
Let's
to
hear
carry that monster stand down in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to hear this though.
So he wanted
From
to
the
bring
beginning.
this tree
Give me
lounger.
Yeah.
And we're trying to talk him out of it. And this tree lounger's 27 pounds.
Oh my god.
And that's not even a joke. It's
97 inches.
Yep. It hangs off top of his head. There will be videos posted all over the internet very shortly. So
He's only 6'4".
So he wants to carry this in. It's quite a hike down through some cornfields, and we got
mud.
Oh yeah, there was mud in the cornfields. But it was so it's like a funnel area in between three ag fields, and it's just like a funnel that comes down on the bottom in the basin of like a river.
You're right down
valley.
at a river bottom.
Yep.
Oh, it's beautiful down in there.
It's absolutely gorgeous. And so we were in there, and we all get all set up. Caddy Cowboy couldn't do a guide stand on the top of the actual ladder stand, so he was a couple yards behind me. And at first light, there was a trophy doe that was
Cowboy term, trophy doe.
about 40 yards out from us, and she was working her way in, and she was kind of tooling around. And then she kind of took off. It was still kind of dark out. And then as soon as the sun started to come up, I started kind of checking things out, started ranging, and I looked to my left, and there's a doe at like 6 yards. Just snuck in on me.
Your rangefinder worked this morning?
Yeah, but it wasn't until what?
Until first light, like past gray light.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then it started fucking up,
Yeah.
right?
No, it was actually
Really?
not that bad. No, because it was foggy. It was all right. It wasn't that bad.
Wow, because Bob and I had trouble. But continue, please.
So she came in. She was tooling around for a while. She was checking out both of us. She kind of knew something was there, but not really. The wind was absolutely perfect. So then about 9:30, Caddy Cowboy says, "Big buck, get ready, big buck." And we can see on the top of the other valley, coming down the cornfield on the hedgerow of the cornfield, was a doe, and she was getting chased by a big mature buck, big chocolate horn buck. It's about 350 yards away, and he's just tooling it in. You can tell he was definitely a mature buck because you could just see him wobbling, like that big mature buck wobble, and you could just see the chest.
the waddle?
And, I mean,
Waddle when he
oh
walks.
my god, it was insane. So I'm getting all ready, and I hit the grunt call, the nor'easter grunt call. I was like burp, 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 just trying to get his attention. Maybe he would turn off. So she turns to the right, and he follows, therefore, after her. And so we're sitting there, and about 30 minutes later, I'm standing there. I'm at this point, I'm standing up because now things are starting to the bucks are really starting to show up, and I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be good. And
Caddy, you had to pee?
yeah,
Did you bring a piss bottle?
no,
You have permission.
no. So
It's like Forrest Gump over here. He goes to like one of the best, most places to hunt. And
I gotta
Bring
pay.
a piss bottle, man.
gotta pee.
He had already filled his piss bottle. I had him on video.
D-Rock should do the same.
right, so
Where
I
Bob?
may
Oh
not.
yeah.
I may not be a smart man, but I know I got to pee.
so anyways, so
Must have been that walk in.
so I'm standing there, and I just catch a glimpse of something moving right in front of me, and it's a buck out past his ears, and I'm like, oh fuck. So I turn to Caddy and go, shoot her. Should I shoot him? He's like, yeah. So
Fucking grab your bum.
I go to turn. You don't have a mic. Stop talking.
He's just muted right
Yeah,
now.
I know. So I go to turn around to grab my bow, and I'm like,
Wait. You didn't get the camera on him first?
oh no! I turned on the camera instantly.
Oh, okay.
Caddy Cowboy was behind me, and he had his camera on. And
Did you struggle with that? Because, not to get off subject and cut into your story, but self-filming is tough. So did you like...
Well, out of instinct, I turned on my camera, flip it open, turn it on instantly, no matter what. I was just like...
honest, he missed nothing. He didn't grab his bow, but he definitely turned that camera on and had it on the deer immediately, and neither of us knew that thing was there.
So the camera turns on, and I spin around, but I spin around to my right to go and grab my bow, and I'm like, fuck. I'm used to hunting in a saddle, so I can normally go whatever which way. I'm not even thinking. I'm just like, fuck it, grab my bow. And at this point now, my harness is right in front of me. So now I have my
Around
bow in
your
my
neck
hand.
and shit?
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, fuck, now
So
what do I
do?
do?
How are you going to
Yeah,
draw like that, right?
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, now I got to go up and over. I'm making too much damn motion. And at this point, I just hear, I'm like, fuck. And Caddy Cowboy's like, grab your bow, because he's at like 35 yards. And at that point, I'm just like, I just
35 from me.
complete defeat at that point. And it was just an awesome experience. Even though I couldn't get my bow. And then, I mean, the high of even better than that is being able to go inside and see these just absolute fucking stunners of deer. And it was, well, I mean,
You got to see the same 230 I saw wandering around yesterday making scrapes.
So wait a minute. Before we get into that, so you've been today in podcast land. It'll be
Veterans Day. So let's take a moment.
well. Hold on 1 second. In podcast land, it'd be when this day or this episode gets released. I think it's the 18th, if I'm not mistaken. But today is Veterans Day. So you want to do a quick shout out, G?
Yeah, shout out to every and all veteran. And, a couple guys here have served. So thank you all. Thank
Darth
everyone.
Marcus and Bear Balls.
Bear Balls.
So if you've been hearing noise in the background,
Oh, my God.
that's actually
Bear Balls is our camp cook, Brad.
Hell yeah.
I take offense to that. I would like to tell Brad that I count him as the camp chef.
Oh, yeah. He's
I'm not gonna
definitely
say
a
he's-
5-star chef.
Yeah, he's not.
You do not
we
leave
don't-
here
I
hungry.
thought he introduced himself as Cabin Bitch, but
It depends on the time of day. What was that, Brad?
yeah. But Brad is the fucking man, and
He does wear an apron.
I can't believe how pampered I'm
And
been.
only
I don't
an
know how to
apron.
feel about it.
Yeah, nothing else, just the apron.
Brad, I would never disrespect you like that and call you a camp bitch or anything. Can you give me some wine? I'm just kidding. Man. I love you. Love you to death.
The white wine is chilling, isn't it? That would be good. You want a glass, Marcus?
It's either that or
A Shabin?
Shabin.
Shabin. I know, we haven't even cracked one yet.
Well, no. We haven't cracked one on air.
Well, that's because I've got my Bow and Bridle tumbler full of Grey Goose, so I'm doing all right.
Ooh.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
That tumbler's badass.
Fucking
It really
right.
is.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even, I want to take a time out because the gifts that come in. So every night thus far, so we've been here 2 nights, and the first night that we came in, there was a very nice letter from Steve's wife, Carrie, and Brad.
Not in that order. Actually, yes, in that order.
Yeah. And there was an awesome snapback trucker hat, bow and bridle. And then tonight when we arrived and we went into our bedrooms.
It's actually a strap back.
Oh, is that what it is?
It
I'm
is.
sorry. I just
It
saw
is.
the trucker cap, so I was like, all right.
Strap
And,
back trucker hat.
The second night, now we have a bow and bridle Yeti.
Yeah,
I mean,
a Yeti tumbler. The
I'm afraid.
So at Bow and Bridle, other people leave chocolates on your pillow. Steven, who never does anything half-ass, figured he'd just leave you really cool stuff on your pillow. So glad you enjoy it.
Well, I've
Why do you leave a cucumber on Caddy Cowboy's bed?
Well, you never know. That might have been
because
Brad.
they didn't have a squash, which is what he'd prefer.
I
But
think you just. I think you got there late. I think in the truest sense of hospitality, there was the gift, and it was probably replaced afterwards by Caddy.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far into it because we'll save it for the episode. But one of the first things I told Steve when we headed out to hunt, we just got out of the Ranger, we're just getting ready to hunt, and I told him, I said, Steve, this has been a hell of an experience already, and we haven't even began what we're here for. So the amenities that the lodge provide and the way that you guys hunt and take care of things and what you provide for the hunters, not only at the lodge but at the hunting barn, I believe is what you refer to it.
Yeah.
It's an experience all in its own that is fucking amazing before you even get to the hunting. So
This is for you boys.
Yeah.
Shabine.
Well, we appreciate that, man, and a lot of work, is put into it, especially
And it shows.
by Steve
And it
and
shows.
Bob. Especially Bob is probably one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life, and Brad and Steven kind of make sure that we all kind of aim towards that goal of having the ultimate hospitality, and obviously that carries over to the deer experience and hunting and the food plots and the stands and the way everything is done. So, but anytime you have anything, we love to get feedback. So anything you have before you leave, please let us know. And
for sure,
please don't forget to sign the book.
What do you got there, big
absolutely.
guy?
Got a little shed over there.
Well, what's nice, I like how you said don't forget to sign the book. I actually initiated day one
Thank you.
with the book because I want
You started right
someone-
off with it?
Yeah.
Always does. He always
Yeah.
does. That's his thing.
Anywhere we go, I do the first day, and I encouraged the other kind of captain of the team to end the day.
Bob, I was just kidding, man. You don't have to bring an entire case of Shabine over here.
Hey, that's Brad,
Hey,
not Bob.
whoa! Don't
what did I
complain
say?
about
Did I call
that.
him Brad? Did I call him Bob?
Oh, yeah, he called him Bob. Bob's sitting next to you.
No, sorry, man. And I've only had one, so no, I'm good, man. Thank you.
Must be good
Thanks,
beer
Brad.
then.
Bear balls.
The
Bear balls.
hospitality.
So we'll get into that too in the episode. We're gonna get to know why Brad's nickname is Bear Balls. Bob, you gonna be around?
I had
Oh,
that.
yeah, I'll be here.
So we'll get into more detail with you. Caddy Cowboy will have more to say if he
Behaves.
Is
No,
allowed.
he doesn't behave. All right,
Oh,
maybe
he don't
won't.
behave?
What's that beer called? It looks like Gang Bang. What's
Oh,
that?
that's Omegang. That's a local brewery out here in Cooperstown that we actually get all our beer from.
No kidding.
So everything here at Bow and Bridle is all local, like the wine, all the food,
The dessert.
everything. It's all
even-
local.
The
even
bacon.
the-
Holy
the bacon.
fuck! The
Oh,
local
that
bacon
red
from Matt.
wattle pig.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you
Insane.
can't get any better than that.
It was fucking banging.
Like
Tastes
our-
like steak.
Hold on.
Oh,
Can I
like
take a
dried
timeout
steak.
real
The
quick?
steak.
Can
No,
we,
no timeouts.
can we
No
just
timeouts.
introduce
no
Bob
crying in baseball.
correctly?
What?
Properly? Can
Who?
we introduce Bob properly?
Oh, that'd
We-
be a good
I
idea.
thought we
Nope.
did.
No.
Just said
No.
Bob.
Nobody
But
knows
nobody
who Bob
who he
is.
Bob.
Should we save it for the episode? Okay, you know what?
Who's
Sneak
Bob?
Tip. Sneak tip, Bob. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and where we could find you, because you were kind of surprised I recognized your IG name.
Well, they call me Farmer Bob on Instagram, so that's where he called me out on. And I grew up.
Farmer Bob, is it okay to say the whole name?
Oh yeah, Farmer Bob 75.
All right, word.
So I grew up around here. Grew up on a dairy farm my whole life, and obviously I love whitetails. Like that's what we're all here about. Like we all love whitetails, right?
Absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
it's obvious you know whitetails as well.
And I think Trevor's stroking one of the whitetails over there right now.
He's-
He's holding on to it.
he's
Every
got a
time
hole.
He's
just let me-
holding a boner.
All
I
right,
mean
let-
booner.
Let me just
got a
sorry.
100-inch
Let me
shed
just
right in
set
his
the-
hand.
Yeah, let me just set the stage. Every time we turn up, like there's sheds everywhere. We're sitting in front of a fireplace, river stone and field stone
In a log
fireplace,
cabin.
in a log cabin with all these amazing sheds. And every time I look over, good old East Coast Trev is sitting there holding like 100 inches of bone, and that's just one side. I love that.
that's easily over 100 inches right there.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Probably what?
So, Bob, paint
anyway,
the
keep
picture
going.
even better. How old are you?
I'm only 26.
You're 26, and you know bone like more than others have seen even inches of bone and what it takes to manage. Can you dip a little bit on your role here at Bow and Bridle? Just a tad.
We should probably save that for tomorrow, shouldn't we?
Yeah, let's
We
let's
can,
leave that
but-
in there for.
Well, all right. So, is it safe to say if Marcus ain't around, you're the go-to guy?
I'm not the
Steve-
go-to
Steve
guy.
would-
Steven's the go-to guy.
Steve's the go-to guy. Steve would call me the farm manager. So if there's something
Right.
that needs to get
Thank
done,
you. That's
I'm
what I was
gonna-
trying to get out of
I'm going to get it done.
it. Okay.
So, but Steve is the man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's true. Steve, I can't wait to get him on. It's going to be a hell of an episode. We have a lot to talk about. What's the first thing that comes to mind, Garrett, when you think of Steve? First thing, boom.
Analytical. It
a big
seems
word for
everything
you.
he does, he is very calculated in, and it's very thought out. He's just an analytical dude. That's the first word to come to mind.
Trev.
Awesome.
Awesome?
Yeah.
Just awesome.
No, he's just a fucking man. Nicest dude in the world.
What
Hell
about
yeah,
you,
for
D-Rock?
sure.
Agreed.
Me personally, genius or mad scientist. But I think it takes a genius to be a mad scientist and
I'd
vice
agree.
versa. In genetics and management, he's really good at both. And I don't mean just management of whitetail, but management of property, family. Family always comes first to him. He knows the balance. He makes it work. He's living the dream. What we would dream to have.
Well,
You
and
said it
not to
earlier.
interrupt you, but he'll admit that he still has a lot to learn about all those things.
That's what I
what
mean.
makes it so special. Because if you ever think you know everything, you're a lost cause. You always got a lot to learn. And, as good as we're talking about him, he still realizes that there's, still potential not quite met yet.
Right. And the shit that we're seeing, it's, it takes a mad scientist to realize that what if. And the what if is always a factor. So first thing that comes to your mind about Steve, Marcus.
Brother.
Word.
Man,
Word.
It's just,
Word.
he's been best friend for a long time through thick and thin. Always been there for me, and all this stuff aside. So, like I said, love him like a brother. That's all I got to say about that.
Hell yeah. I like that. That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say about that.
Forrest Gump right
reference.
there.
I'm just, like I said before, man. I'm just, honored and blessed that he allows me to be,
That he gave you the small room?
Yeah, and that
He gave you your own bed.
And I
Trev gets the
I
small one?
steal all of his swag and everything.
Swag whore.
I am the swag whore, and I got the apron tonight too. So I got the
Nice.
complete bow and bridle set now. But I'm just, I just love being part of it and appreciate it. So, and Bob's, fantastic guy, fantastic guide as well.
I can
our
attest to
clients absolutely love it, and he pulls out of all the stops out for our clients, and really appreciate that. And Brad, like I said, has just been great. Not just on the grill, but just helping out every which way he can. So to create the experience that we want to provide. So, but yeah, that's all Steven, man. It's his dream and his vision, and it's cool just to be part of that.
Bob, first thing that comes to mind when thinking about Steve.
Family.
Elaborate a bit. That's a good one.
Family?
Yeah. Why family?
He's pretty much been right there with me the whole time. We've came pretty close working together.
That's awesome, man. Really
Word.
awesome.
For sure.
So this is going to be an awesome episode, like I said earlier. We have a lot to talk about. Steve the man will have his intro coming up next with Bow and Bridle, Whitetails in upstate New York. It's more inches that you can handle in one day, never mind a whole week. I don't know how we're going to able to surpass and get through this week. Again, passing up big bucks so we could shoot the small bucks. Because if you want to play, you got to pay. So let's get Steve on
We're
the
just
mic.
we're just trying to manage the property, man.
Why East Coast Bow Hunting Podcast?
Because neither one of us wear pink camo.
East Coast Bow Hunting Podcast. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Look, man, I'm from Wisconsin. I listen to East Coast bow hunters because you don't get anything more real than these guys.
Because East Coast bow hunting sets the standards for keeping its listeners informed on everything that matters in the hunting industry.
Nice having somebody, local and represent the East Coast boys.
The East Coast is going to saddle up.
Number one source for slaying whitetails on the East Coast.
Well, you might see Jesus if you actually shoot something, it'll get you into heaven.
Why East Coast? Why not? I'm East Coast, baby. That's how we roll. Chew on that.
Come on the show, a stranger, and feel like one of the boys when you leave.
Because I get my hunting camp anytime I want.
There's some absolute monsters roaming the East Coast, and I think it needs a little attention. So why not bring it to the East Coast Bowhunters podcast?
Mad because East Coast is a tight-knit crew, and y'all like me. Raw, real, no bullshit.
Because you guys are hometown boys. I love you guys.
This is Kurt Geyer with Working Class Bowhunter, and East Coast Bowhunting Podcast is the only hunting podcast I'll tune into.
All right, guys, welcome back to the East Coast Bowhunting Podcast as we have Steve Impey from Bow and Bridle Whitetails in studio. Well, we're actually in his studio. Right, Steve?
We are. We're in the lodge.
Hell yeah, the hunting lodge.
A hell of a lodge it is.
Hey, this could be the new studio name. You could call it the Lodge.
I like that.
I don't know what you call your studio now, but the Lodge might work for you.
It's not as fancy sounding. I like the lodge better. I think we're going to frequent here a lot more.
I don't know if you can call it the lodge if you're in the dirty water.
I know.
I don't know if
Well, maybe I could work with Brad and I'll fit in better.
Listen,
what do you think?
There's different types of lodges. The Dirty Water Lodge.
I don't know how good that sounds.
Maddie, you like it.
I'll have to have disinfectant everywhere at the Dirty Water Lodge.
Hey, that's already all over. You got porn star to deal with.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, so let's go around the room. We just did the intro. Marcus, Darth Marcus, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where he came that from. But Marcus is gone, so let's recap who's in studio. We still have Bear Balls, a.k.a. Brad, the chef camp, or camp chef. We still have Caddy Cowboy in the background. You might hear him. You might hear him on the mic. It depends how much he's drinking. Let's go around the room. Start with
East Coast Trev.
Modern Assassin.
Farmer Bob.
And
you got Steve Impey here.
Hell yeah. So let's kick it off right, man. Steve, let us know who you are, where you're from, and where we can find you.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I'm about 5'8". I'm bald. I'm showing my age.
You're good looking, though.
Hey, listen, my wife looks good. That's all that matters, right?
That's why you're good looking. She makes you look good.
But at the end of the day, I'm just a guy like you guys, right? Just a guy that grew up hunting, fishing, and loves the outdoors, right? Grew up in a small town. Few thousand people, walk out your front door, go hunting every day. You know, back in the day, you could bring your guns to school, for cripe's sake, keep them in your truck, and when you were ready to, the bell rang, and you just walked outside and went. You just walk, and do some hunting. But, I'm married, got one son. He's currently in New York City working, graduated from Syracuse. I think there might be a little link there, right?
Yeah. Like that?
Yeah. And I got a sister, things like that. So I'm a normal guy, right? That likes to hunt and fish, and grew up that way. Started hunting with my dad when I was small. I couldn't even hunt myself. I wasn't old enough to carry a gun or a bow. My dad was a bow hunter.
Sweet.
Back when there was no sights and no releases, and things like mechanical stuff that we have on the bows these days. So he was all fingers and, look down the arrow and sit behind a blowdown, and he would take me with him, and we'd sit right there. I remember the first time I ever saw him shoot something when I was with him. He shot a doe, big old doe. And so I grew up in the woods, basically, with him. Unfortunately, my dad was sick at a young age. He was only 32 years old, so I was only 12. So I unfortunately didn't hunt too much with him or fish too much, but certainly that's where my enthusiasm for hunting comes from, and where it all started was from him taking me. I was fortunate enough to have some good friends and family that took me in, basically. When my dad did pass away, I basically lived at their home, and they were all Italian family and big into hunting out in the western Berkshires of Massachusetts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and they had a hunting farm out there that they leased every year, and they kind of took me, and I tagged along with them and learned how to hunt a little bit. They were big gun hunters, shotguns and things back then. You couldn't use a rifle.
And they created a monster.
Basically, yeah. So picked up a bow.
Monster that creates monsters?
Yeah, that's what we say, right?
Yeah.
Truth. We got fanatics and we got monsters. Maybe we'll get into that, right?
Yeah.
So I started hunting at a young age. I shot my first deer with a bow when I was 16. Had no idea what I was doing. I was all by myself. I was in a 12-foot wooden ladder stand that no one should have been sitting in. And hit it way too far back and tracked it way too soon. And made all the common mistakes that I think a lot of new bow hunters make, especially if you don't have any, mentorship.
Right.
Or a good podcast to listen to.
Or a good podcast. There you go.
I like that. I like that.
Them pointers.
Yeah.
Kills it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the woods there of the Berkshires, learning how to hunt with them. I was very, very fortunate to do that. They also owned a large concrete construction company. So I consider myself blue collar. Grew up working in construction and concrete, real work. Tons of respect for those types of folks that do that. Not that mental jobs aren't hard, but certainly physical labor.
Real Italian.
A real Italian family, right?
Yeah,
We used to do high rises and Home Depots and things like that, and bucket concrete.
Hiring people
and
like
things.
myself at Home Depot,
It was legit.
Creating places for you to get a job.
I'm saying.
It was legit,
Thank you.
man. It was legit. So worked for them for a number of years growing up and hunted with them. And then everybody kind of went off to college, and so did I. And we ended up down in Florida for a while, and that didn't go so well. I only spent about 6 months there. Best thing, other than my wife and my kid and things like that, one of the best things I ever did is I went down there with a group of buddies, and we didn't go to school much, but we had a lot of fun.
I bet.
A lot of fun. And so we, one day I just woke up in the morning, they were all gone. They actually went to school that day. I packed my whole car, and I left. And they came home like a day later. They're like, where the heck is Steve? And I was gone. I was home. It was the best thing I ever did in my life. I came home, went back to work. I was doing construction. My sister worked for a wireless company. She was in HR, and she called me up one day. It was coming into winter, and she said, I know you like working with your hands and working outside, but I've got a job. If you're interested in it, it's in the warehouse, and it pays $19,100, but it's got great benefits. And you drive a forklift and do all kinds of stuff like that. And I said, I'll take it. So I started in the wireless industry in 1992.
Oh, so you're still a young buck.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yep.
Four-corn?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty much spiker.
Oh, okay.
See how big that
a
spiker
30-inch wide spiker.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, I was fortunate enough, make a long story short, fortunate enough to work in the wireless industry corporately for a number of years. And one day I came home to my wife and said, I'm going to leave my six-figure job in the corporate world, and we're going to sell everything, and we're going to open up franchise stores. We're going to sell our house. We're going to liquidate our 401k. We're going to get rid of it all. And I know we've got a new baby and blah blah blah, but we're going to open up stores and go out on our own. And she was very supportive of it and said, "All right, let's do it." It was hard. She didn't like it, but like some days, but she was very supportive and wouldn't be where we are today without her. So it's kind of how it all began. We built one and built them all, and ultimately that afforded me, a better quality of life, if you will, for myself and my family, and the ability to hunt more, right?
Right.
Dude.
Right.
The leap of faith. The leap of faith.
Yeah. Talk about doing it right.
Yeah.
Through sacrifice, too.
Yeah. Nothing good comes easy.
You know what? Since we're on that subject, why don't you tell us your balance? Because that took a lot of sacrifice, obviously. But tell us your present-day balance. You don't have to dip into detail, but in the fact of how do you make it work for your day-to-day, going to work, squeezing in hunts, and family time? Because I know family is super important to you specifically.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm fortunate now that work is what I love to do, right? So for a number of years, I spent it in the corporate world and the wireless industry, but now work for me is, waking up, putting on a pair of boots and a pair of jeans and walking down my driveway most morning. Bobo over there will tell you I like to walk to work. It's a few hundred yards or whatnot, but I like to walk to work. I think what do you call him, Caddy Cowboy or whatever.
Yeah.
He had noticed today that as you come up our driveway, there's a house in the middle, and to one side is a barn and a horse barn, and to the other side is a shop or a hunting barn. And very astute of him to notice that one side is my wife's and the other is mine. So, so anyway,
and your wife's is bigger.
It is bigger. Yeah. It's,
So you found the balance.
Yeah. Hers is pretty badass. She waited a long time for that, though, so she earned it.
Word.
But, for balance, balance for me is kind of the easiest it's ever been in my life, right? Because, the saying is true. You never work a day in your life if you do what you love. And, now I get to get up and go to work and, spend a lot less time in an office and on a phone and replying to emails and things like that, and a lot more time outside, either farming, which I didn't grow up a farmer, as you heard a little bit about how I grew up.
That's Bobo's job, though, right?
Farmer Bob.
That's Bobo's
There we
job,
go.
Farmer Bob, exactly.
That's what he's got me for.
Exactly. Keeps me in line. But I like to think I had a little bit of a green thumb. I was turning food plots and things like that 20 years ago with a rototiller. My
Nice.
first food plot was the size of this room right here, and we carved it out by hand and hunted over it, and we were like, holy shit, this works. It brings in deer, But so balance for me today is fairly easy because, I get to do it all right then and there. I get to go home, walk back home and eat lunch with my wife, or our son was up at Syracuse for a number of years, and I was only an hour and 15 minutes away, and I get to grow big deer and see the benefits of working the dirt and the soil and things like that. You guys know we're a working farm as well, right? We're a working straw, switchgrass straw, farm for the cow industry. And so we do a lot of that, obviously, but we also try and set the farm up so that we're not working during the core of the season. Right, so we don't do the corn and the soybeans and the things like that because that's a fall crop, and that's when we hunt. So you talk about balance. Well, we've also tried to manipulate things so that we do have a better balance, right? Yeah, it screws up our turkey hunting a little bit because we do switchgrass in the spring.
Spring's very busy.
Oh, yeah, spring's rough. It is rough. It's a lot of hours then, but it's well worth it. So balance is...
Whitetails over turkey.
Yeah.
Wise decision.
Yeah, your whitetails over turkey, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Them turkeys get you going, though.
Yeah. There's something about calling them, but, it's calling a 1,000-pound elk is probably a little more exciting.
I mean,
but.
you can't say we haven't been or calling these
in
whitetails.
deer.
Oh, yeah, them calls are awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. Shit, we've called in,
Does.
600-800 inches of antler.
Well, wait a minute. In 1 hour sit. I mean, let's be real. Let's not like this is.
I'm talking about calling in, not seeing. But
Okay.
yeah. I mean, you think it's insane.
It is. It is pretty insane.
Yeah, we do pride ourselves on trying to grow some big deer, as you guys can attest to. Finding the management ones or the cull ones, whatever you want to call them, is a little harder than finding the big boys, which means we're doing something well.
You know what? I want to circle back to that comment because it's just insane. So why don't we start from the beginning? Where not the beginning of your passion, because obviously you told us you found your passion through your hunting with your father, which I think is awesome and beautiful. God rest his soul. Because to have that influence that impacted you into latter years to come up with this idea, I'm sure is a big part that maybe you might not share with absolutely everyone. And the fact that you laid down here is pretty cool. So let's start from the beginning with Bow and Bridle. What was the initial idea? Aside from not wanting to do what you were doing corporately.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned a few minutes ago that, put my first food plot in with a, rented rototiller and a bunch of bags of lime and fertilizer and things like that. And it really goes back to kind of getting bit by the bug then of not just hunting a whitetail, but everything that goes along with them, right?
Habitat management.
Everything, right? I mean, I enjoy habitat management probably, just as much, if not more than either shooting a whitetail myself or quite honestly seeing somebody else shoot a whitetail.
Constructing the chessboard for the chess game.
I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, I don't want to, downplay the, as you can attest to tonight, trying to shoot an arrow. I don't want to downplay the importance of finishing the job and shooting the arrow, but if you do all the other things right, that is, the end result, right? Stand placement, food plot placement, access, all those types of things are most important. Wind direction, everything like that goes along with it. So I got bit kind of early on the habitat side with the food plotting and things like that. And then I was fortunate enough through the years with Marcus Malhauser, who you've had on the show, to hunt at some very nice, some nice places that were set up well. Texas probably had the most influence on me in terms of hunting and what they do down there and how they manage their deer and their programs and how they hand out their permits and manage their does and all those types of things. So we hunted a very nice ranch down there that had a lot of influence on me. So I just got bit by the bug, the food plot bug, and, ultimately wanted to control. I'm a control freak. I mean, period. Like,
I'll vouch for that.
Like, just I have to control my own destiny, right? I can't leave it in somebody else's hands. If I'm going to fail, which we all do, including me, I'm gonna fail on my own.
Yeah, who can you blame? Yourself.
Who can you blame, right?
Yep.
Which is fine.
Well, who else can you accredit the glory to when it comes as well?
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you take the good with the bad, if you will,
exactly.
right? So,
hell yeah.
Yeah. So, I bought my first piece of land, and actually up in the Adirondacks of New York. It was a small. I say it's small, but 60 acres and a small little cabin, and started working the land and putting in food plots and things like that, and I quickly learned that there was more bears and trees and things like that than whitetails. And it was really thick, deep woods, which we hunted in the Adirondacks for probably about 13 years. You didn't walk off the road without a compass reading, right? Because you weren't coming back.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really fulfill my passion, if you will, because it wasn't ag country. I felt like I wanted to be in more ag country. So I started looking for a piece of land that included more agriculture, and just ended up here, just outside of Cooperstown. Found a place. Took 2 years. It took 5 years to find a place, and it took 2 years to get the deal done. Just because I could afford X, and they wanted Y, and every year we talked, and
you gave them Z.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
That's really kind of how it ended up. So, bought the first piece of land, and
which, how much was the original?
240 acres was the original. Gotcha. Yeah, and now we own.
So that's the heart.
That's the heart. That's where the house is and things like that. And now we own over 1,000, and hunt much more than that if we want. And it affords the ability for Bob and I to manipulate the land. I mean, you can make a difference if you rent or lease or things like that, but it's not like owning your own piece of land and being able to do whatever you want to it, right or wrong, and learn from those mistakes, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Gary, what's the first question that comes to mind for Steve now that he said that, the beginnings?
Oh man, what? I mean, you had the idea. What was the very first step? I mean, you had the idea for Bell and Bridle. You started with that heart, that core piece.
Yeah.
What is then the very first step to creating this Deerassic Park?
Yeah, I mean, Bow and Bridle wasn't what I set out to do. I set out to just have a personal hunting property that was set up and designed exactly how I like to hunt and how I thought it was best, right? So the very first thing was to purchase the piece of land that you feel is right for whitetail habitat, right?
And right for you to manipulate.
Correct, what you want to do, right?
Upon,
yeah,
right?
I mean, if you're a hardwoods hunter, if you're a hardwoods hunter and you want nothing to do with food plots and things, well, then you probably don't want some ag land in your, in what you purchase. I did. I wanted to manipulate that ag land in different ways, and
what's funny is you've manipulated most of the ag land you have now reverted from ag land.
Yeah. Well,
in a way.
We call it ag land because we grow so much switchgrass, right?
I mean, most of the time when you talk whitetails, if you're saying ag, you're speaking food source. So that's what I'm saying. Most of your agriculture food source, a lot of that is now, like you said, the switchgrass and stuff you farm, but it's not a food source, but massive amounts of bedding and cover and safety and transition.
Yeah, what we plant now, I guess what you're saying in traditional ag, corn and soybeans.
That's what you usually think of when you say, if you're
corn,
hunting
soy,
ag
clover.
for whitetail.
Everything we plant in corn and soybean remains. So we don't. we don't
leave it standing.
We're down to the end of what we harvest, right? This will be the last year we have any cash crop, if you will. So we'll be fully converted to either corn and soybeans only for deer to hunt over and to feed them throughout the winter, which is harsh up here. And all the other ag land will be converted or has been converted into switchgrass, which offers us massive amounts of bedding and a revenue source for the farming side of our business.
Genius.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story. I'll tell it real quick. I planted my first 10 acres of switchgrass purely for cover along a road frontage. I knew nothing about the stuff, but did some research and found that it was fairly easy to plant in terms of the equipment that you need, because you can plant it just by spreading it in the winter on the snow. So
frost seeding.
Frost seeding, yeah.
Yeah, and it's even longer than that. I mean, you can pretty much put it down now and let it sit. Now it does take 2 or 3 years to come in, so it's a little bit of a pain in the ass in that respect because it doesn't like weed competition. But so we planted the first field for cover on the road, and actually Bob's family, who's in the dairy business, 1 year said, "Hey, you ever bail that stuff off?" And I'm like, "No, I'm ready to burn the shit." Like because it gets so thick, you have to every few years. And they're like, "Well, why don't we bail it? It looks like it'd be great straw." And I'm like, "Well, freak, have at it. I don't care." You mean? Was. Yeah, I'm like, "You're gonna take it off? I don't have to do anything. I don't have to burn my property down." I'm like, "Great, So they bailed it off, and they're like, "Holy shit, this stuff is some legit straw."
Yeah.
So me being, me, I'm just like, "Ooh, ding."
Yeah.
Well, the thing we couldn't get over was how much it yielded per acre.
Why exactly though?
And volume.
Volume.
Yeah, it was just a lot of bales per acre, which afforded us, good revenue source, if you will, right? And then we took it off in the spring, so we didn't take it off in the fall. We let it stand all hunting season. It gets knocked down by snow, but when the snow melts, it comes back up. So I was like, wow, this could be something good, great fawning cover and bedding cover, and then stands all fall and pheasants. Yeah, you guys have seen a lot of pheasants running around, right? Pheasants. And then we bail it off in the spring, and it starts all over again. So we really got into the switchgrass. We have a few hundred acres now, but we really got into it by accident for planting it as road cover. And now we're generating X amount of revenue off of it, filling in huge, large ag fields. I mean, deer are only going to eat so much. You can't plant hundreds of acres of corn and soybeans if you're just doing it for deer.
Yeah, especially leaving it standing. You don't need the vast area like you think of a cut field, what it yields versus what you're providing.
Well, an open field for a deer is doing nothing.
Right.
Literally nothing. I mean, sure, if it's summertime and it's alfalfa or something like that, it's feeding them. But an open field isn't doing any good for
keeping
deer.
them out of there for the most part.
It's a void.
Yeah.
It's a void. So we fill all ours in with 6 foot, 8 foot tall switchgrass.
There you go. So you mentioned you initially started switchgrass for cover or providing more bedding and whatnot. Even before that, how does one begin a property management, so to speak? Before that, you had to start with a barrier, right?
Well, I mean, every piece of property is different, right? But the old adage, food, cover, and water, still holds true. So you take a look at each piece of property and see what your gaps are, and not just your property, depending on how much property you own, but the surrounding area, and you say, what's in the surrounding area? What do I have? What don't I have? And our property had, I did have a consultant come in too, or a well-known consultant, and to verify what I thought before I actually bought the property. And they did. They verified exactly what I thought, which was our cover was a 10. Our food was a 0. Cover 10, food 0. Previous owner said, you will never hold a deer on this property in the winter, ever. Those are their words.
0
to
food.
me.
And 0 oaks, which is crazy.
0 oaks, right?
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of oaks on our part. And I said, that's not true. I said, I don't believe that. I believe you don't hold deer because you don't have food. And so the consultant confirmed that. So the first piece to the puzzle for us was food. And he was right. The former property owner was right. That first winter, because I closed in the fall just before hunting season, came up to hunt, there wasn't a track on the place. I didn't see a single deer. They were gone. But there was no food. You had the cover, but you had no food. And the winters up here are harsh. So the first thing we did was put in food. And it only took, that was it. That first year, there were deer. I started shooting, beautiful New York free-range whitetails, 140, 145 inches, mature, 4 years old or better, things like that. We were passing the young ones and stuff, but it only took that 1 year.
Yeah, if you have a cover of 10, and then even if your food isn't quite up to that par yet, but you have good food, they're going to stay.
Yeah, and we're not even talking, corn and soybeans at the time because I didn't have the proper equipment and stuff. We're just talking, rye and radishes and brassica plots and some clovers and some things like that,
and
right?
especially winter forage.
Yeah. But, to me, true winter forage is corn and soybeans, and we didn't even have that yet. And it made a huge difference. So the first order of business was identifying what your property has and what your property doesn't have, and then filling in the void. And before you buy the property, take a look at that, because if you can't create what your property doesn't have, then you can't create it. I wouldn't recommend buying the property, right? I mean, if there's just, you're in the desert, how are you going to create water sources? If you have all timber, how are you going to create food sources? You can, highly expensive, to cut out timber and create food plots and stuff, but that's what I mean by it took 5 years to find a piece of property that I felt I could manipulate into what needed.
That's really awesome, man, because you would figure building this Deerassic Park, as the modern assassin says, that you would, I mean, me personally, I would think, okay, let's set up the barrier, meaning the wall. To contain.
Of course you go to the wall.
Well, I mean, shit, do you blame me? I always had to dig under, swim across. I mean, always something to prevent.
Our wall's only 10 feet.
So you're like a coyote then at that point.
Well, yeah, we dig the tunnels. I mentioned earlier, I have American cowboy boots with the American flag on it to blend in.
Yep.
It helps me blend. Yep. But what I'm getting at is...
That's just so Donald Trump sees you, he's not going to send you home.
Hey, that's why I cut my hair short too. Now I blend even more.
The gold doesn't help your cause. Anyway, continue.
At least I leave my gold grill at home, man.
Boy, these sidetracks really make it easy on your guests.
Well, it gives you a break from business.
There you go.
Actually, let's go around the room. For the first time ever, Trev's not sipping on anything, which is weird to me. I think he's up to no good. Steve, what are you sipping on right now?
I'm drinking a little Twisted Tea, raspberry.
There you go.
It's kind of my poison. I'm not a big beer drinker. It's Tito's.
Yeah. That's good.
Tito's or some Twisted Teas or some things like that.
Nice. So what are you on? Some Tito's?
Yeah. As soon as I got back to the hunting barn after our night, I had a few of my favorite things. A few of my favorite things. Shebeen
beer.
And
Shebeen
now on to the Tito's and ginger beer.
Yeah, compliments of Bow and Bridle.
And
I don't know if you can say what you're drinking it out of. Future sponsor, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Bow and Bridle's Whitetail Custom Yeti Tumbler. It makes it taste better.
Actually, I think technically it's a Rumbler, isn't it?
Rambler,
I
believe. Yes,
like
Rambler.
The car. You're right. You're right.
Yes, all part of the Bow and Bridle experience, as we like to call it.
It is.
It's like the 12 days
and one
of
of the first things, actually, you weren't here last night when we were recording with Marcus, but one of the first things we talked about...
Because family comes first. The balance.
There you go.
One of the first things we talked about was the experience before we ever went hunting.
Yep.
Which we're here to hunt.
Yep.
But the experience that was provided from, from everything, from getting here and the introduction and Brad ready to take care of us and everything he's done and Bob showing up and telling us what was going on and meeting you and, the little gifts you guys leave and the literal 5-star, 5-course meals. All the provisions. I mean, getting to the hunting barn, when you say a hunting barn, you're like, okay. And then you get there and you see this facility that holds your office in it as well. But you walk in and the first thing you see is everyone has their own individual scent crusher closet behind all the rangers ready to take everyone to their access point. Showers right there. the experience arriving and everything before even the hunting experience is an experience in its own. I mean, truly.
Yeah, and as it should be. You're on vacation. I mean, you're here to hunt. Quality of animal comes first, right? Quality of hunt, from your stand setups to the animals you see to the property and things like that. But you're on vacation for a week. You're away from your families. You're spending your hard-earned money with somebody, right? And you should have an all-round good quality of experience. And that's one of the things that, Bob and my wife and Brad and all of us talk about, which is making sure that not only do you have a quality hunt, but that you have a quality meal, that you have quality amendments, you have a good, place to sleep, a comfortable bed. I mean, I've been there. I've slept on the floor of a trailer with mice running across. And we used to have trapping contests with mice. Everybody set up a trap. Whoever's trap went off first won the pot.
Shout out to my boy Jackson.
And listen,
back at the hunt barn.
Jackson is the mouse man. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens all over this country, right? And that's great experience as well. But
I remember you told me we've spent a good bit of hours together already through this trip. And you said, I know what I like, and there's not a whole lot of things that I'm real particular about, but there's 3 things. I want a good meal, I want a good hotel, and I want a good tree stand.
Yeah, I'm a tree stand snob.
And,
I say it all the time.
I mean, the meals live up to those standards.
Dude.
The hotel, I mean, this isn't a hotel, it's a lodge, but the accommodations, like you're mentioning, being comfortable and everything. And then, the tree stands as well, man.
Oh, God. So, Trev, take us through your experience pre-hunt.
Pre-hunt?
Yeah, because you were pretty speechless and you weren't saying much, but you were giggling an awful much. Like, every nitpicking thing that everyone was saying, you were just cheesing ear to ear. Take us through your
I never saw him run to the shower so fast.
What do you mean?
I know, right?
Oh, he was on the move.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's because the shower had hot water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the first to go to bed, too, because he saw us
excited,
drinking.
yeah.
He's like, no, I'm here to hunt.
Yep.
I'm going to bed.
I'm here on a mission. I mean, I haven't really drank much. I'm here to just kind of take everything in and kind of really understand. I mean, I guess the first thing that kind of pops in my mind is like when I walked in was the sheds. I mean, as soon as I came, I was just gawking over them. I couldn't get them out of my hands. These guys are all unpacking. I'm like, yeah, fuck that shit. Let me see those giant sheds. And I just held every single one of them and just dissected them right from the beginning. And it was just, I knew what I was getting myself into. And even the free range, just hunting these ag fields and these pinch points and just learning. And I'm going to take home something that, nobody could ever learn. Even on the free range side, and it's something else, man. Like I've honestly evolved myself as a hunter just being here and listening and understanding, and even with the in the fence side, it's just been like,
not over the mixing
board.
Cowboy.
I'm sorry, yeah, he's handing me a drink here. Going. Thanks, Ken.
Yep.
So even going, I was able to go inside of the fence and hunt also, but learning how a deer actually does what a deer does. I mean, even for a newer hunter, it's a good thing to just understand like different winds, the transitions from the switchgrass to the food plots and so on, how they move, what they do. I mean, it's just been an experience that I don't think that I could take in anywhere else, honestly.
And I guess what Trev's trying to say, it's a full-fledged experience from not even just learning deer, but learning not even the hunt, but learning people. Because you really get to know someone when you're in the stand through all kinds of type of weather, whether it be good or horrible, or even sucking in stuff you don't want to suck in downwind. Right, Bob?
Yeah, sorry
Are
about
we?
that.
Does that go back to Brad's chili?
Just set the
is that
picture
a Brad
up,
chili
right?
reference?
Just to help the listeners a little bit, right? So a lot of our hunts are fully guided, meaning you sit in the tree with the hunter to ensure they shoot the proper deer. And the guide stand is just slightly above or at the same level as the head of the hunter. So if you can imagine, now you could put that together and imagine what's going on in that tree stand.
So,
all depends on wind direction.
The wind direction
is
is key.
And the bibs you wear creates the time delay.
Oh yeah,
it's like a pair of waders.
Well, those scent-proof clothing, they hold the stuff right in there. You know?
So I guess Scent Crusher doesn't work as well as it should.
Well, it took a whole 5 minutes for it to get there, so it must have worked a little bit.
You'd have to carry a portable one in your pants.
I believe they make one of them for Stevie Mo, or it's in development, so stay tuned for that.
Oh, man. So, Bob, why don't you take us through that sit real quick, and I want to dive back into, circle back to what Steve said about passing smaller deer to get to the big deer.
Well, how every deer you see, you ask me if it's a shooter?
Well, yeah, you could start there, I guess.
Well, it was cold this morning, so you real cold. You didn't, thank you. You didn't want to sit too long, but I knew where we were. I knew it was a good transition area. They were traveling through. We were right up next to the bedding. And it was
a good moon for that late morning movement.
Oh, they were
right
moving.
Now.
They started moving late. It was probably close to 8 when we started seeing our first.
I don't know where you were sitting. We were seeing deer since the sun came up.
That's what I'm saying.
Grunted in a monster
spoiled me
in
off
the
the rip,
blue
and then
light.
all of a sudden I had to wait.
Listen, Garrett got the A guide.
well, have you looked at the board when you walked in?
Oh, you want to go to the board? Listen.
All I remember is it says Marcus 0.
Yeah, it does say 0.
Okay.
Yeah. I pick every stand. Let's just leave it at that.
There we go. There we go. So take us through that, I guess, this morning hunt, yeah.
This morning?
Yeah. That's what you're talking about, right?
Oh, yeah. So this morning we were down in there, and I don't know, it was probably like 8:30 when we first started seeing a little bit moving through. They're definitely cruising right now.
Right. Now, continue, please.
Sorry.
What?
Continue through the experience.
So we saw this deer, this 3-year-old moose, I think, and he was cruising. He did not stop. We tried grunting.
Why do you call him moose?
Because he looks
Good
like
question.
a moose.
Palmated like a motherfucker.
Take your hand and hold him about 3 feet apart, and just look at the palms of your hand, and that's what he looks like. Like.
Like a bullwinkle.
I was about to say, you stole the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, great people think alike.
Then we saw deer going upwind, downwind. Like they're definitely on our stand placement. Back to that, like we were sitting on the west side of the bedding, and the bucks were cruising the downwind side, searching, scent checking that bedding.
And I was like, I don't know about you, Bob, but I think we should probably be sitting on the other side of this little creek running down the mountain.
Yeah, you said that, what was it, 3 minutes later, and we had one come up right behind us?
Yeah, snuck right in. A 140's 9 point? Something like that? So soon after that happened...
2-year-old.
Yeah,
just said 2-year-old.
So soon after that happened, you stood up. You were stretching. I don't know what you were doing.
My legs were cramping up. It was cold.
Yeah,
I think he was airing out some more of Bob's chili.
Brad's chili.
Brad's chili.
Brad, bear balls. And then all of a sudden, you sat down and I gagged.
I apologized.
But why? Why can't you just give me the heads up, man?
I didn't. Would it have made it any better?
It was literally 5 minutes. I forgot about it.
All right, so
D-Rock's scarred. He has not forgotten.
Listen, we'll clean him right up. You can have him sit in the blind with me for an afternoon.
Oh, dude, you'll be ruined.
You get a gas mask when you come.
Oh, literally.
Oh man, I literally had my scent crushed mask over my face so I can smell the ozone beyond the fart zone. I just couldn't handle it.
It's all about the experience here. It's all Bridle.
Well, that's what I mean, full-fledged experience. So back to that. Earlier you were saying you were passing up the small bucks to get on the big bucks when it's free range. Yep. And all of a sudden, before we get in too deep about high fence, you build the wall. Oof, I shuddered saying that. So you build the wall.
I'm for it.
And
just saying.
Now, it's kind of fucked up, man. You were in my wedding.
They all converge.
And all of a sudden, we find ourselves, well, specifically Garrett and I, and Trev got to experience it, as well as Caddy Cowboy, passing up monsters and looking for the small buck. So
yeah, it's all
tell
part
us
of
that
the
experience.
I mean, it's part of the management plan, right? I mean, it's really the same as when you hunt free range, and that's how we, run and operate our property, whether it's our free range properties or our preserve, as we like to call it, or what some people perceive to be a dirty word, a high fence, right? Whatever you want to call it, but we treat both our free range and our preserve the same. Exactly the same in terms of how we set them up and how we hunt them and the experience and things like that inside them. And just like in a free range environment where you're trying to control to the best of your ability, which depends on who you talk to, whether you can make a difference or not, you're passing younger deer if you're trying to shoot bigger deer. And listen, everybody hunts differently all over the country, right? Some people shoot anything. Other people hold out for whatever they perceive to be a trophy. And a trophy for one person is not a trophy for the next person, right? And I personally am a fan of anyone who hunts and however they hunt and whatever they perceive to be a trophy, whether it's a doe, a spike, a 200-inch monster, right? It's personal preference, and it's the experience, and they should never be shunned for hunting the way they want, provided it's legal and ethical and different things like that, which can be a whole other different type of conversation, right? But for us, we're trying to manage, whether it's our free range properties or our preserve, to grow big whitetails, right? And control genetics. I said I was a control freak, right? It goes back to, and we won't go down the road just yet on the high fence if you don't want to, but really it's a control thing, right? And shooting smaller, letting smaller bucks go, provided they have the right genetic makeup, they're there for the future, whether that's to harvest them later or for them to breed and pass down their particular genetics versus another deer. Again, in a free range environment, debatable on what you can, make for an impact, but in our preserve, we certainly can make a big impact. We control what's in there. That's the beauty of it.
Well, what's really cool is everything you're describing, you're basically God's right-hand man for the whitetail on your property.
Yeah, I mean, you own the deer, and you manage them in every aspect of it. What they eat, how they breed.
The coolest
who
thing,
goes,
who stays,
yep.
The whole 9 yards.
That's amazing.
The coolest
That's
thing
management.
to me in it all is that you would have no idea that you are in the preserve if it wasn't for, oh, hey, I heard a grunt, and you turn around and it's 230 fucking inches of antler, and he's like, oh, that's one of our 3-year-olds, and looking at it with the binos. But
relatively clean, I would like to add. We like relatively clean genetics, too. These aren't, they've got some shit, but
they don't just look like crazy tree roots for the most part.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
My point is if that deer gets downwind, if that deer cuts your track, if you move, if you make a noise, there is no difference as if you are anywhere else in the...
Oh, no. Twisted Tea.
If you are anywhere else in the world hunting whitetail, these whitetail are as wired and weary and just
it's
they're
free
wild.
Range. It's free range.
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends how you want to define the vocabulary.
Sure,
but they are acting and living as a wild animal that just happens to be contained within an area larger than their normal core home range anyway.
Yep.
I have a good question for you, Steve. What does free range mean to you?
Very good question.
Free range to me still means without a fence. Free range to me means that an animal.
So how would you
define
define your whitetail? I'm sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, a free range to me is a whitetail that can go anywhere they want at any time they want, as far as they want.
Okay.
That to me is still free range.
All right.
How would you define it?
Identical.
Identical. Yeah.
Identical.
So now I'll ask my question. What would you define them what would you define your whitetails as then? Because obviously, by your definition, they wouldn't be free range. So what would you consider them? As I was just explaining, I mean, they are pretty much wild. They're as wiry and
Well, I need to interject because that's where I was leading. Is my following question to get the answer out of you is.
Are you leading the witness here?
I am.
All right.
What is fair chase to you?
Always.
Oh, we can't even go down the fair chase. I mean, we can.
What
but
does fair chase mean to you?
Yeah, I don't consider a large enough preserve set up properly not to be fair chase. I'll answer that question that way.
Good answer.
But it all depends on how you set that up. You boys have been here for a few days now. And you're here because you wanted to experience firsthand, so that you would have some educational knowledge on what it is like to hunt in a preserve. Not because you're not huge free-range hunters, right? But because you wanted to understand it, because we had some great conversations about it, and it intrigued you guys, and now you'll walk away, well-educated on it and can speak to it, right? And you've seen it firsthand. Gary, you were just describing it. They act the same way, but we've set our property up to be that way. We ignore our fence in terms of setting up our property, and it's large enough to do so, right? We're hunting travel corridors. We're hunting food sources. We do not hunt over feeders or any sort of bait in any way, shape, or form, right? Yes, we have some feeder houses on the property. They're strategically located in areas that we do not hunt. We have hundreds of acres of bedding areas that we don't even walk in. And I often get the question, well, they're on a fence. They're not going to go anywhere. So what? Right? So we treat them exactly the same. We ignore the fact that they're behind a fence, and we hunt them the same exact way. And we hunt, we take our shower in the morning. We keep our stuff in a scent-proof locker. We're 25 feet up in the air, right? We do everything the exact same way. And we tell anyone, which, by the way, we're a small, I'd say semi-private almost, where we take X amount of hunters each year, very low number, and we focus on quality. And that quality for us of experience is a free-range like hunt, but in a well-managed property that is growing and holding tremendous, mostly typical, some non-typical stuff, but mostly typical genetics. And we hunt hard every single day. You guys can attest to that, right? You're up every morning. You're sitting for hours and hours on end. You're seeing deer, sometimes more than others, but they're not just walking by you like, shoot me. Like, it's not a fish in a barrel type game, and that's how we have our property set up.
Well, in my head, they're always telling me to shoot them, but that's why I always have to ask Bob.
You have to put the old blinder up and ignore the antlers and look at the body structure.
Right. That's what we were talking about tonight, looking over that field.
Right. Exactly
what we were talking about.
Precisely.
Shoot, don't shoot.
So going into this, Garrett, what was your initial expectations? Because obviously none of us experienced this at first.
Yeah, could we hold on that for 1 second? Just because you asked me you did ask me a question I didn't answer. You asked me fair chase.
Yeah.
I think you asked me, right?
Yep.
And it's a real interesting question. I don't have an answer to that question because I don't know where you draw the line.
What's your line?
I don't know. I really don't.
Fair.
I don't have a line. I mean, when did it start, or when does it stop, or does it even exist? I mean, I think it was fair chase when, our ancestors were running around with a stick and a homemade string and a, arrowhead that they carved out of a rock. But times have changed.
Some people will look at using a rangefinder as,
of course,
that's not fair chase anymore.
I mean, where does it end?
Exactly.
I can get a rangefinder that I can range the deer and adjust my scope on my rifle to be exactly on. So where does it end? And I don't knock any of these types of products. I use, a tremendous amount of them. But how do you define fair chase when there's technology changes every single industry, including, the whitetail world or the hunting industry? I mean, our bows have rangefinders built into the sights now if you want them. They travel at, 300 feet per second, or crossbows at 450 feet per second. And, is it fair chase to shoot a whitetail or any animal at 1,000 yards? I mean, they don't even have a clue you're there. So I don't have an answer to it. I don't
I don't have a problem with any of it, but I don't know how anyone does give an answer to it.
You know what? You bring up something really, really important, because every opinion matters, because every hunter matters to this world.
Hunt the way you want to hunt.
Exactly. And especially every aspect of hunting, as long as you're contributing to conservation. So that being said, we reach out to the listener. Chime in to our DMs, PMs, to East Coast Bowhunting Podcast or Kills It Podcast, or even Bow and Bridle on Instagram. You're on Facebook too, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. At Bow and Bridle.
And just in parentheses say East Coast Bow and Bridle, and give us your definition of fair chase, and you're entered to win the Outright Hunting Morph Pro giveaway, which includes extra large T-shirt, the bow hanger and camera holder, and 3 set screws for your private lands.
Yeah,
So-
and that's bridle, BRIDLE, as in horse bridle.
Correct.
That is
Good
my
point.
that is
Good
my
point.
wife's 50% of the.
You know what? Can we dip into that a little bit?
Sure, we can go wherever you want. This is your show.
No, but this is your episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bow and Bridle, how'd you come up with that name?
Obviously, being a large, archery fan and bow hunter, I wanted something with that name in it. And my wife's passion is horses, and she's ridden and had horses since she was, a little itty bitty girl, and throughout our entire relationship in life. And so, as with anything else in life, it's a partnership, and we just both felt that she got to pick half the name, and I got to pick half the name, and she probably wanted bridle and bow, but I think bow and bridle rolled off the tongue a little bit better.
That's a good combination.
Goes back
Good
to that
combination.
control.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, and she's pretty forgiving with me, so it just worked, it rolled off, and so it's bow and bridle, and obviously for our whitetails, it's bow and bridle whitetails.
Really cool. So, back to the question, your expectations, G.
Well, Steve and I we talked a good bit because.
Even start from the beginning. Me reaching out to you, be like, how would you feel?
Actually, it was Cowboy that reached out to me first.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and the first thing he said, he was like, dude, maybe you're not interested. I have no idea, but I brought your name up in conversation. He said, you may be against this. I'm not sure. And he said, but how do you feel about a preserve or a place with a high fence? And I said, well, it depends. I mean, it's, again, like the fair chase. It's not just a cut and dry line. I said I could possibly be interested in it for what the experience is, and that's when Steve and I started talking directly. So I did have a bit of, like you're asking the question, an expectation. I'm not going to say I had a fixed expectation, but I had an idea what we were coming into. And pretty much what I told Steve was I would like to see monster deer acting wild, doing big buck things during the rut. And if there's a deer that needs to go, if you say kill it, I'll make it bleed. And, bleed it out, cut the Zeus loose on it. So... my
I like
expectation,
that. I like that.
yeah, but so really, I guess expectation without holding an expectation was to just have
transparency.
Have
transparency,
100%.
That was a big piece,
yes.
and I think you
100%.
should speak to that a little bit because you were,
and that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that it would not interest me. But like I said, these are wild animals that just happen to be, I say confined because they can't just continually go, but they have an area large enough, bigger than a normal home core, and they don't have to travel as far because of the land manipulation and agriculture and just habitat that you've provided. They can have a smaller core. So, it's kind of even confined is a different word. but it's nowhere near like what you'd think a high fence petting zoo. Or you got feeders, and these deer are just kind of on a timer, and deer just do the normal shit all the time. Like, no, it's real hunting. You never know what the fuck's going to happen.
And they're grown right. What do you got, Caddy Cowboy?
All right. Garrett started talking about a conversation that you and I had a while ago, and I had talked to you, and I talked to Steve, and you guys hadn't talked to each other yet. And I said, Steve, this guy's line is raw, real, no bullshit. Steve goes, yeah, I know. I've listened to the show. I was like, that alone, I was like, really? But
yeah,
more
we were
importantly,
humbled by that, for sure.
The next thing out of your mouth, though, Steve, was, I don't want anyone pretending that this is free, like, open land. We're talking about a fence. We're talking about the almost a decade of work that you put into it.
Sure, yeah. And I grew up free-range hunting. I mean, I know what it's like.
Well, okay.
But you didn't want to pretend that this was something that it wasn't. He was like, if we're going to put this on TV, if we're going to put this on a podcast, I need you to promise me that these guys are not going to pretend like we're out in the fucking public land. That was, how cool is that? You would not allow it to be portrayed.
Yeah, and that was two-way. I mean, Garrett was really, really, stressed that as well, and I couldn't agree more with him.
Yeah, and like you just said, you spent a long time hunting free range and not just New York, but and when I asked you about where this came from, where it started, you said, I've hunted free range deer for a long time. And
my whole life.
And you've killed a lot of very good free range deer. But there's a limit. And obviously you know better than anyone. It gets to genetics, it gets to food, and everything else. But you're only going to get to a certain caliber of deer in that free range area.
Correct.
You're only going to there is a max, a limit.
It's back to the control.
Exactly. And you wanted to amp that up substantially by still hunting deer that act like deer, do what deer do, are tough to kill. I mean, you have deer on your hit list that you never get a crack at for years in a row.
We only know they're there because we have photos, and then we have ones we don't even know they're there because we never even get photos.
And you
of
have
them.
ones you
and
want
we have
dead
ones
that you 9 lives.
Yeah,
Perfect example.
Nine
One's
lives.
called 9 lives just you want him dead.
Yeah,
and just can't.
They're
make
5
it happen.
and 6 years old, and we haven't caught up with them with the years. Bobo got a beautiful 7-pointer this year, 6-year-old deer. We didn't just decide this year at 6 we wanted to take him out. We've been trying to get him for 3 years.
Exactly.
With a gun.
And with a rifle.
With a gun.
Exactly.
Because we managed some of our deer, and most of our deer with a gun, with
so
a rifle.
Long bow and bridle then.
Loud bow.
Loud bow and bridle.
Not for you.
I like it. Yeah.
Not for our guests. Bow.
Right.
Bow.
Well, management. Yeah.
I did have my bow and rifle that day. It just happened to be the loud one.
Well, and on the reverse of that, there's deer you know about. There's deer that you maybe want to remove that are tough to get on. But
like
on
9 lives?
But on the exactly like I said. But
He
on
just
the
likes
other
you.
side of the coin,
Son of a bitch.
on the other side of the coin, you also have deer that you don't know about, that you don't have pictures of, that you haven't seen on the hoof before. Because I believe you said it's roughly around 300 acres that you have that is literally untouched.
Yeah, the core center of our property is a piece we don't go in. My wife will shed hunt in it maybe once a year, and even that kind of turns into a conversation. But yeah, we have large pieces, and we have a big contiguous block, and then we have several standard, just like free range bedding areas that we just don't go in, and those are deer sanctuaries. So they can live in there and run around, especially during the rut, and and do their thing, and we don't see them, until it's just like free range. You take out the head deer in an area that they might be running and bossing in, and you know what happens right away? Another one moves in, and it just shows up and takes over, and you're like, where did that deer come from? Who's that one? Okay, he rules this roost now. So.
And it's like Christmas all over.
Oh,
again.
it's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. So what better? Shabine. So what better way to segue? Because another thing for the listeners to look out for is part 2 of this podcast and this episode, or not the podcast, but this specific episode, Steve Impey, Bow and Bridle, Whitetails. You're going to have to go to the Kills It podcast to listen to part 2. So before we get to that, I want to segue to Ninja Tip of the Day. All right, so Steve, a.k.a. Boss, as they say on the board and around camp, Ninja Tip of the Day. What's your best outdoor advice or even life hack you have for our listeners?
Just be yourself. Enjoy life. You know, hunt the way you want to hunt.
Hunt the wind.
You know, hunt the wind,
Ooh.
right? Yeah, we're big on the wind here. But
so is Bobby.
So is Bobby.
Oh,
yeah.
Number one.
Yeah, you
number one.
I mean, if it's hunting related, it's wind, and you
It's
probably
number
hear it a
one.
million times. It's number one. It doesn't matter what else you do. You hunt the wind, right? So you get X amount of stand options every morning and every night because you go with wind first. But, you know, just in life in general, just be yourself, you know, and just roll with it.
That's awesome, man. It's solid ninja tip, man. Solid ninja. Actually, you know what? Roberto, what's your ninja tip aside from play the wind? Because I don't like the way you play wind.
I like the way I play the wind. Oh, my ninja tip.
Yeah. What's your life hack?
Life hack for
Or your hunting tip.
Yeah.
my hunting tip?
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
To help out a new
Be
hunter.
observant. Be observant.
What do
Pay
you mean?
attention. Like pay attention to what they do. Like just like we were talking last night. Like when a deer's staring you down, you know what it's doing, and it's doing a head bob. Like it's gonna pick you off. It's trying to pick you off. Just be observant. Pay attention to what they do, like how they react to things and move.
Don't get busted by does, right, Bob?
Exactly.
And
Try
don't
and-
stare them in the eye, as you guys were saying.
Yeah.
We close
Look
our
through the
eyes.
eyelashes.
I love to stare them right down. I look right at them.
Yeah,
Fucking-
through a pair of binos.
And
too.
everyone I look at, I'm like, you're mine if I want you.
Yeah. I'm God's right hand man. You're like Caesar. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yes, I let you go.
Pretty much.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, man. So, Steve, I want to keep on talking, but we're going to have to do it on Kills It Podcast. So,
Hold on. Time out. Before you do what you're about to do, can you explain what you're about to do and what you're going to do it with?
I don't know how I could
Because
explain this.
I'm going to say this right now.
Why don't you explain it for the listener?
This will forever be the biggest horns we have ever rattled on What Rattles Your Antlers.
One
for
of those
East.
horns is double both of the horns you normally do rattle your
Double.
horn.
I could.
I
want to
say triple. Yeah, we usually use Connecticut antlers.
Hey, listen, it takes a real man to carry those into the woods to rattle it.
Well, I don't know if I qualify for
challenge?
that. So I have
A lot of bone.
what, maybe 190 in my hand?
You got over 100 right there.
Yeah.
Over 100
In one hand.
In one
in
hand.
one hand. And what do you say here?
I don't know. It's roughly
Close
to
to.
that as well.
Yeah. So all right, let's round off to the nearest hundredth.
You got a few
I got
100 inches of bone in your
Yeah.
hand.
A few.
So let's get to it. So, Steve, from Bone Bridle Whitetails, what rattles your antlers? What gets under your skin?
Judgment.
Please elaborate.
There's too many people in this world that judge people before they even know it. The old adage, you know, that my parents always told me is don't judge a book by its cover. And I just think that in today's world, there's too much of that goes on. People, you know, people are people, right? No matter where they're from. And there's too many people that judge people that they don't even know or talk about people that they don't even know. Especially in a social media world, people think that they have a platform to be able to do that. We should respect each other first, right? Get to know people. Once you know them, hey, fine. Form an opinion of them, right? But that gets under my skin. I don't judge anyone until I know you, and I always give you the benefit of the doubt first. And once I get to know you, we typically get along and we become great friends. But maybe we're just too different, but I just think there's a lot of that happens in this world, that people are judging people or judging what they do, and they really don't know them.
And I can attest to that, because you've got a Mexican decked in gold, a guy with hand tattoos, a dude with saddle up tattooed on his stomach, and a drunk in the kitchen. So I mean, yeah, you definitely try to take the person in and not just judge the book by its cover.
Hey, the beauty of the world is we're all different.
That's it.
We're all different, right? We all bring something to the table, and we're all different.
Amen, man. I mean, what better? What, you got something?
Yeah, can you just do me one more favor? Can you just rattle those horns just one more time?
All right.
I mean,
like a man. Rattle those things like you mean it.
Like Dave would
listen,
do it.
Listen, you're not rattling the spiker.
Let's hear it like them. They would go to war. There's so many times they just get
flip
locked
them around.
up.
Go with the backwards rattle. Oh yeah, the old clank-a-clank. Hear the tone.
The deep bass.
Oh, I need eye guards. Word.
You got eyeglasses?
Dude,
that's not enough for these.
You've got 12-inch brows right there. What do you mean you need eye guards?
Oh man, this has been a fun episode. I can't wait to continue this on Kills It Podcast. Let's do our ending round of positivity. Trev, what do you got?
Round of positivity. I am just so thankful. And I say this all the time, but this
I know
time
it gets boring.
Truly, honestly mean it. Steve,
he means it this time.
Yeah.
None of the other times.
Next time, Caddy Cowboys, stop kissing me.
He was French kissing you.
Yeah,
too.
that was a little strange.
Pretty sure I saw.
I think it was in the ear though.
Yeah. No, but I feel so blessed to be here, and Steve bringing us into his home, because this is his fucking home, and it's just absolutely amazing. This has probably been one of the best experiences in my entire hunting career. I have not only had one of the coolest hunts with one of my best friends in the world, but also had the chance to be inside of the fence, and I saw 2 deer, and they were both over 200 inches. One of them I could have fucking drooled on, and it's been just one of the most epic experiences in my life, and I'm so thankful for that, and I can't thank Steve enough for allowing me to do that.
Word. Garrett, the modern assassin, what do you got?
Yesterday we asked one word to describe Steve, and the word I picked was analytical. He's very calculated in everything he does, how we go about it, the access that is provided. It's no different than hunting whitetails anywhere else. And, the most positive note that I can really take in is, one, the entire bow and bridle experience. But one of the craziest things that I've gained, and I didn't really necessarily expect, was, I've been into animals and behavior and whitetail hunting for a long time. And there's a lot of things that I've picked up over the years. And when you come to a place like this that is a Deerassic Park and a mecca for whitetail, between the cover provided, the transitions, the food sources, everything, all these things that I kind of thought whitetail did, or these habits and patterns and behaviors that I've kind of picked up, I've got to not only witness more and confirm some of my thoughts and ideas and everything, but then am sitting in a tree next to a whitetail master, Steve, and able to talk back and forth. And, sometimes there's, to my surprise, even things that maybe I noticed that Steve didn't pick up right away, and we get into and discussing into pretty serious depth on some of these deer and some of the behaviors they're displaying. And so my positive note is being able to truly have the classroom to learn the things that I kind of had an idea on, but you get some verification.
Amen, man. We definitely went to school and are still learning at school. So, Baba, what do you got? Round of positivity.
Oh, round of positivity.
Make love to that mic.
I am thankful for the rut because we all love that. But
what kind of rut? The catty cowboy rut or
Well,
the whitetail rut?
The catty cowboy's always in rut.
Because I'm still, jury's still out on the catty cowboy rut.
You want to elaborate a bit before we get to?
I'm going to leave it at that.
Mark-
I think
Mark just won't
I think
wanna
the
elaborate
listeners
on
can,
that.
go up or down with that and figure out what they want.
Word, I agree. So, Bobo, round the positivity.
Oh, round
The rut.
The rut. Like this time of year, like everybody has their favorite time of year. Fall's my favorite time of year. The leaves are changing. The weather's dropping. Like spending time in deer camp with people you don't know, then become best friends. Like that's what makes it fun.
We're 6 hours apart, and you are good friends with my neighbor.
The mayor of Cobleskill.
We're gonna have to dip into that into kills
For real,
it. Word.
for real.
I know how you can be total strangers and then next day fart in someone's face and you laugh about it. It's one of those things. It's a beautiful thing. So my round of positivity is the part 2 to Kills It podcast. Make sure you not only subscribe on YouTube, but subscribe on iTunes. So this way you can collaborate under our umbrella that we're creating, and it's all friendly. We do not judge. We put
Brotherhood.
you. Yeah, it's the brotherhood that we put you on the pedestal, the hunter, not the big buck killer, not the brown is down. It's the in general hunter. And we'll continue talking to Steve Impey from Bridle Whitetails. So, Steve, close us out, man. Round of positivity. What do you have?
I just want to thank you guys for being open-minded. So my positivity would be for everyone to be open-minded. You all are open-minded about coming here and doing your show, something different, right? A preserve, a high fence, whatever you want to call it. You were open-minded about that experience. You wanted to experience it, and you're talking about it now, and truthfully talking about it and sharing your experience. So
And it ain't over.
it ain't over. We're halfway. We're just halfway home, right? So I think that's a very positive experience and a lesson for those out there that are listening. Be open-minded to things.
Amen. Couldn't agree more. And you know what? Stay tuned, because we're going to paint the snow red. And on that note, stay stepping.
And
Stay slaying.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Hold on. Weren't we supposed to go over what's actually going to happen on part 2 here? And we did not do such a thing.
Good catch, Trev. Good catch.
No problem.
You know what? I'm glad you reminded me, because we're having a blast here. So make sure you switch over onto Kills It podcast with the Modern Assassin, where we go over and introduce Bear Balls. He gets his little segment. We actually asked what free range was, so we take over from there, talk to Farmer Bob a little bit more. And this is your experience, quote unquote, from Steve Impey, Bridle Whitetails. So make sure you tune in to Kills It podcast so we can continue the party and check us out. Are you excited about this, Trev?
Super excited. Definitely a different perspective in Garrett Benner's head.
I know. This is one for the books. So I guess we could kill it.
Let's go kill it.
I've never had Chickamauga eyes, and I'll never kill a Boone and Crockett. I try to let a few does walk, but if that freezer runs low, I gotta stock it. These scrub bucks got no mass, darn sure no drop times, but this chili has deer burger in it tonight.
Where did this podcast go? Straight to hell. Yeah, speaking of hell, check out East Coast Bowhunting Podcast.
We keep it real on East Coast. First of all, I'm addicted to the show.
I like that. That's cool.
Whole heart, you live it, you breathe it. It's a whole different world.
Just East Coast has a little bit more of an edge and a grind. It's a fantastic thing.
You guys are fucking awesome.
Well, number one is you guys like beer. I want to feel like I'm hanging with the boys.
You're the guys that showed up.
But I actually saw Jesus.
The point where it is now, where it's insane.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Just want to get the realest people possible in the industry. And if you're not pissing people off, you're not doing it right.
Nothing forced, all fucking natural.